The first thing you notice is the sound, not gunfire, not shouting, just a deep, steady drip, 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 echoing somewhere ahead like a clock counting down. It's the morning of June 6th, 1944, and the air inside a narrow railway tunnel in Normandy, France, feels cold enough to sting your lungs. German boots scrape against wet
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.
stone as a patrol moves forward in a tight line, rifles up, flashlights cutting thin cones of light through dust and mist. Outside, the world is exploding with the start of D-Day. But in here, underground, it feels like a different war, a quiet one, the kind where one wrong step can kill you before you even understand why. The tunnel sits near the village of St. Lo, along an old rail line that runs through low hills and hedgerows. It isn't famous. It isn't marked on most maps soldiers carry. But in the hours after the first reports of Allied landings, every small place suddenly matters. Every bridge, every road, every tunnel becomes a possible invasion route or a hiding place for saboteurs. By mid-morning, German units are scrambling to secure anything that could help the enemy move fast inland. Some commanders are sure the Allies will try to push supplies through rail corridors. Others fear something worse, that the resistance has prepared traps and surprise attacks beneath their feet. The patrol belongs to the 352nd Infantry Division, on the same hard division that will later grind American troops down at Omaha Beach. At the front is Unteroffizier Carl Fischer, a seasoned NCO in his early 30s who has learned to trust his instincts more than any order. Fischer isn't a hero type. He's careful, sharp-eyed, and tired. He knows what panic looks like, and he knows how quickly it spreads. Behind him are 6 men, all carrying Carabiner 98K rifles, one with an MP-40, and another with a light machine gun, an MG-34, cradled like something fragile but deadly. Their faces are dirty, their uniforms damp, and every one of them keeps glancing toward the darkness as if it might move. At first, the tunnel looks empty. It smells like rust, wet rock, and old smoke. The rail tracks are still there, but they haven't been used in a long time. The patrol follows the right-hand wall, the light bouncing off stone blocks that shine with moisture. You can almost feel the chill crawling under your clothes. The sound of dripping water is everywhere, and the air tastes faintly metallic, like blood or pennies. Fischer raises his hand, stopping the line. He listens, and under the dripping, there's another sound. Soft. Not quite a voice. More like a weak scratching far ahead. A few men exchange looks. In a tunnel like this, any sound could be a trap. It could be rats. It could be a loose cable or a hanging metal piece tapping the wall. It could be a wounded Allied paratrooper trying not to be found. But it could also be something set up by the French resistance, something waiting for German soldiers to step close enough. Fischer signals again. 2 men move forward, slow and careful, their flashlights low, weapons up. The beam sweeps across the tracks and catches something that doesn't belong. A thin wire stretched near ankle height, almost invisible against the stone. One of the soldiers freezes, his boot hovering just short of it. The man swallows hard. The tunnel suddenly feels smaller. The wire isn't connected to a grenade, not that they can see. No box, no charge, no obvious trigger. That's what makes it worse. The resistance rarely wastes effort. If there's a wire, it usually means someone planned something serious. Fischer crouches down and follows it with his eyes. The wire disappears into the darkness toward the left side of the tunnel, toward a small equipment alcove cut into the wall like a pocket. The flashlight beam slides into that alcove, and for a second, the patrol sees stacked crates. Not French crates. not civilian storage, military crates. The markings are faint under dust, but they're clear enough when the light hits at the right angle. Fisher leans in closer. The crates look freshly moved, not ancient. The wood is too clean. The nails are too new. Someone has used this tunnel recently, and not just to hide one or two things. The stack goes deeper than the flashlight can show. The men spread out, tense, breathing loud in the quiet. The soldier with the MP-40 aims at the darkness as if expecting someone to jump out. Another keeps the MG-34 ready, finger near the trigger, eyes scanning for movement. And then Fisher notices something even stranger. There are footprints in the wet dust along the tracks. Dozens of them. Heavy boots, many sizes. Not random footprints either. They're organized, like traffic moving back and forth in one direction. This isn't just a hiding spot. It's a supply route. Fisher signals to cut the wire safely, and one of the men takes out a knife, moving with hands that tremble slightly despite the cold. The wire goes slack. Nothing explodes, no gunfire follows, but the feeling doesn't improve. That's often how traps work. The first one is there to make you relax. They move deeper. The tunnel bends slightly and the air changes. It grows warmer by a fraction, enough that you notice it. The drip sound becomes a little quieter. And then the patrol reaches something that makes them stop completely. A wooden door. Not a tunnel maintenance door, not the kind that leads to a small side chamber for tools. This door is reinforced. Metal straps run across it. A fresh padlock hangs from a thick chain. It looks like someone built it in a hurry, but with purpose. Fisher steps closer, bringing his flashlight up. There are scratches on the wood, deep ones, like fingernails or metal scraping in panic. One soldier whispers without meaning to. "Someone is in there." Fisher gestures for silence, but it's too late. In the next second, a muffled sound comes from the other side of the door, a weak thump. Then another, and then a voice, thin and broken, speaking in French, too soft to understand at first. Fisher leans close, trying to catch it. The voice repeats the same thing over and over, like the person is afraid to stop. "De l'eau, s'il vous plaît, de l'eau." Water. The patrol stands frozen. For a moment, the war outside feels far away. The men in the tunnel stare at this door like it's an animal trap, and they're not sure which side they're on. Fisher's mind is racing. Prisoners? Resistance fighters? An Allied soldier? Or civilians locked away for something the patrol doesn't yet understand? He doesn't smash the lock immediately. That's the difference between a leader and someone who only knows how to follow fear. Fisher steps back and studies the area. He checks the ground for wires. He looks for explosive charges near the hinges. He scans the walls. Everything looks quiet. Too quiet. But the voice continues, barely alive. Finally, Fisher nods. Two men step forward and hold their weapons ready, while another pries at the lock with a tool. The metal squeals softly, echoing down the tunnel. The sound feels dangerous, like it could attract the wrong attention. The lock breaks, the chain drops, and Fisher pushes the door open, just a little, keeping his body behind the thick edge. The smell hits first. Stale air, sweat, human waste, and something else. Something chemical and sharp, like disinfectant mixed with damp clothing. The flashlight beam enters the room, and what it reveals is not what the patrol expected. Inside, huddled against the stone wall, are not soldiers. They are children, not one or two. A whole group, maybe 20, maybe more, packed into a chamber carved into the rock, their faces pale, eyes wide and hollow. Some look too weak to stand. A few cling to each other in silence, as if noise might bring punishment. Most are dressed in mismatched clothes, coats too big or too small, sleeves rolled up, shoes worn thin. Their hair is dirty, their lips are cracked. And when the light touches them, they don't rush forward, they flinch, because they've learned that light often comes with pain. For a second, nobody in the patrol speaks. Even the man holding the MP-40 lowers his weapon without realizing it. Fisher's heart drops into his stomach. This is not a fighting position. This is not a weapons cache. This is a cage. A young girl, perhaps 10 years old, blinks hard at the light. Her face is streaked with grime. She looks directly at Fisher and whispers something that sounds like a name. Behind her, a boy coughs weakly and tries to sit up, failing halfway and collapsing again. Fisher steps in carefully, boots quiet, as if loud steps might scare them to death. He crouches down and speaks softly in simple French. He asks who they are. He asks where their parents are. The children don't answer right away. They look at each other first, then at the soldiers, then at the open door like they can't believe it's real. Finally, one older boy, maybe 13, speaks. His voice is dry and shaking. He says they were taken from nearby villages. Some were orphans, some were hiding with relatives, some had parents arrested. The boy doesn't know exactly why they were brought here. He only knows one thing. Men in uniform, German uniforms, had been using this tunnel for weeks, sometimes months, bringing crates, building doors, locking them away whenever the tunnel was active. And then, in the last few days, it got worse. The guards became nervous. The air raids increased. More footsteps. More shouting. More moving of supplies. The children were given less food, less water. The boy says yesterday, June 5th, the guards argued. One said the Allies were coming. Another said the tunnel had to be sealed and everything inside left behind. That last part makes the patrol go cold, because the children are not the only thing hidden here. Fisher turns, stepping back out into the tunnel. He looks down the tracks again, the stacks of crates, the reinforced door, the wire tripline. This place wasn't just a prison. It was a secret facility, a hidden nerve under the battlefield. He orders one man to stay with the children and give them what water they can spare. Another runs back toward the entrance to report. The rest of the patrol moves deeper into the tunnel, following the tracks past the chamber. The farther they go, the more the tunnel changes. There are side passages, storage bays, a few lanterns mounted on nails, suggesting someone expected to work here for a long time. Fisher's flashlight catches piles of papers stuffed into a corner. He grabs one and wipes dust away. The paper is stamped with official markings. He can't read every word in the dim light, but enough is clear. Military schedules, supply counts, lists of equipment. Then they reach the biggest surprise. A rail cart sits on the tracks, partially covered with canvas. The patrol approaches slowly, weapons ready. Fisher pulls the canvas back. Inside are crates marked with warnings, explosives, ammunition, detonators, but not the kind meant for normal combat. There are shaped charges, bundles of wiring, timers, equipment used for demolition, the kind you'd use to bring down bridges, collapse roads, destroy rail lines, the kind of equipment that makes a tunnel like this extremely dangerous if triggered. And then Fisher sees another marking, one that stands out even to a soldier who isn't trained as an engineer. A label referencing Sprengstoff, explosive material, with numbers that suggest far more than a small sabotage team would carry. This is enough to turn the tunnel into a tomb for anyone inside it. The patrol doesn't move for a moment. They're realizing something that makes the hair rise on the back of your neck. This tunnel could be a trap not just for Allied troops, but for the whole area. If the Germans can't hold Normandy, they could collapse key routes behind them, slow the Allied push, and bury anyone unlucky enough to be inside at the wrong time. And now, with the Allied invasion underway, this place suddenly becomes a ticking question mark. Fisher orders the men to spread out again and check for firing circuits. They find more wires along the wall, but these are thicker, running into side chambers. One man follows a wire and finds a crude control point, an old wooden table with a field phone, a battery pack, and switches. Someone built a detonation station underground. It's real, it's active, and it's been left behind in the confusion of D-Day. For a moment, Fisher imagines what could have happened if his patrol had cut the wrong wire or opened the wrong box. The entire tunnel could have collapsed. The children would have died without anyone even knowing they were there. The patrol would have vanished, and above ground, the war would have rolled on like it never happened. He steps away from the control table, breathing carefully. He gives an order to mark every wire they find. Do not cut anything else. Do not touch the detonators. Get engineers here. Now. But in war, now is never simple. Outside, units are already fighting for their lives. Commanders are screaming for reinforcements. Radios are full of panic and half-true reports. A tunnel in the countryside with crates and prisoners isn't the priority until someone understands what it really is. Back at the chamber door, the children are beginning to move, slowly, like people waking from a nightmare. The soldier left with them tears, pieces of bread, and gives tiny amounts of water, careful not to make them sick by giving too much too fast. A small boy clutches the bread like it might disappear. Another child tries to stand and sways, nearly falling before the soldier catches him. Fisher returns and sees the way the children stare at the German uniforms. Their fear hasn't changed. To them, these soldiers are still the enemy. And Fisher feels something he hasn't felt in a long time, something close to shame, mixed with anger. Not just at the Allies, or the resistance, or the chaos of war, but at the fact that someone used children like tools and threw them away like cargo. He knows how the system works. He knows orders flow down like water. He also knows soldiers choose what kind of men they want to be inside those orders. Somebody chose this. The patrol's runner finally returns with more men, including a junior officer, Lieutenant Hans Becker, who looks like he hasn't slept. Becker listens to Fisher's report and steps into the tunnel, his face tightening when he sees the children. He speaks to Fisher in clipped words. This is above their level. The engineers will decide what to do with the explosives, intelligence will take the papers, military police will handle prisoners if the children are even considered prisoners in the first place. But Fisher doesn't like the way Becker says it. Too clean, too distant. He insists the children have to be moved out before anything else happens. Becker hesitates, glancing down the tunnel like he's afraid of what might still be hidden. The truth is, he's also afraid of responsibility. Moving children during an invasion is messy. It raises questions. It creates witnesses. It creates stories that commanders don't control. Still, the decision is made. The children will be escorted out. One by one, they step into the tunnel proper, squinting in the flashlights. Their feet shuffle on the wet stone. A few of them hold hands. Most keep their heads down. You can almost feel how every step takes effort. And as they reach the mouth of the tunnel, the daylight hits their faces like something unreal. Some flinch from it. One child starts to cry without sound, like the body remembers how to weep, but the voice forgot. Outside, the world is loud again. Distant artillery rumbles. Aircraft engines moan overhead. The sky is smeared with smoke. Somewhere far away, men are dying by the hundreds. But here, near this forgotten tunnel, a different kind of rescue is happening, small, quiet, and almost accidental. As the children are moved to a safer spot near a farm building, Fisher watches Becker's men begin to secure the tunnel entrance. Engineers arrive later that afternoon, June 6, 1944, around 1500, carrying equipment and a look of grim focus. They crawl along the tunnel, untracing wiring, finding charges, assessing how close the whole place is to turning into rubble. They discover that some detonators are already connected, but the firing point appears unfinished. Perhaps the enemy had planned to complete it, or perhaps it was meant to be used only if retreat became certain. And that fact changes everything, because it suggests the tunnel wasn't abandoned by accident. It was left with a choice still on the table. Blow it and erase the evidence, or leave it and risk it falling into enemy hands. The engineers work carefully, disarming what they can and removing what they can carry. They don't have time to clear every crate. The front is moving. Orders shift by the hour, but enough is removed to reduce the threat of a sudden collapse. The tunnel becomes an intelligence find, documents, demolition supplies, and proof of a hidden underground operation tied to the chaos of the invasion. For Fisher, though, the tunnel will always mean something else. He will remember the sound of dripping water, the wire at ankle height, the locked door with scratch marks, and the faces of children who didn't run when it opened because they didn't believe freedom was possible. In the days that follow, as fighting tears Normandy apart, the story spreads quietly from unit to unit, not in official reports, not in proud announcements. Soldiers mention it in low voices, usually at night, usually when someone asks what they saw on the first day of the invasion. Some will say the tunnel was full of explosives. Others will say it was a resistance hideout. A few will mention the children and the way they looked like ghosts stepping into daylight. History often remembers the largest battles, the biggest landings, the famous generals. But sometimes the war's most shocking moments happen in places without a name big enough for textbooks. A tunnel in the countryside, a door in the dark, a secret meant to stay buried. And if you picture that moment, German soldiers expecting gunmen and finding starving kids instead, you realize why it sticks. Because for one instant, the tunnel showed the truth of war in its rawest form. Not strategy, not flags, not speeches, just human lives hidden underground, waiting to be found before it was too late. And the strangest part is this. On June 6, 1944, the biggest invasion in history was happening above ground. The world was focused on beaches, parachutes, and tanks. But under the earth, in a forgotten tunnel near St. Lo, the war revealed something no one expected. Not a weapon, not a map, not an enemy, but the cost of what people are willing to hide when they think nobody is watching.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.